And again, we're just doing it as an intro, but when you're doing a more advanced scene, you really do want to use a better light. So let's take a look at the settings for our lights. We have our light type, our light shadows, then we have our intensity, color, and attenuation. So depending on the type of light, what type of adjustments we have. And with our standard lights, a lot of these are going to be quite similar. So here we have our multiplier, and this is going to be how bright our light is. I can turn this up or down and adjust the intensity of this light. The color of the light, so what color is being projected from this light or generated from this light. I can go and put a tint of yellow or a tint of blue and make that very pale to make our light feel like it's either an interior or an exterior light or a warm or cool light. So we can go and put a little color into our light. When we look at our light source, there is no decay in our shadows. So if I were to move my light a distance away, you'll see it changes the position of the shadow, but it doesn't make the shadow get any fall off. So we can go in and change the decay type. So none, inverse. Now we're getting a lot less light generated, and our shadows are being affected by that. So you'll see we're more in shadow out here because we have a fall off on our light. Inverse square is the closest to natural light fall off. And then here we have our start position, and we can raise this or lower this. And this is where the light starts to fall off. The show simply means if I have the light deselected, it continues to show what that parameter is. So you'll see show on different parameters, and that's all it means. Is that when it's deselected, you're still going to see this fall off. So I can go and turn that off, and then when I deselect, I no longer see that parameter for the fall off. Here we have use near and far attenuation. I'm going to illustrate this with a spotlight. So with the light type, I can just change the light type. And right now I want to have a spot, and the spot needs to get rotated. So I'm going to rotate that spotlight, and I'm just going to move it a little bit closer to our still life. And then I can pick to have a target. The target's going to make it a little bit easier for me to manipulate the light. Or I can have no target on that light. So I have to select the light to get back to the parameters. So I can turn off that target. Again, under intensity, color, and attenuation, we have the use near attenuation and far attenuation. So with our near and far attenuation, this is where the light starts being generated and stops being generated. So I'm going to take my light and move it a little closer to the objects so we can see the light source. And let's turn up the light a bit so it's a little brighter. And if I take my near attenuation and say use, now we can see where that is. And if I were to move the start position, let's pull that out. Let's pull it out to 30. We see that this is where the near attenuation starts and ends. So if I pull it out a little further, you'll see the edge of that. So we have this fall off for our near attenuation being created. And you'll see a little bit of a gradient there. Again, if I turn on if I turn on show, and I click the light off, that will stay. And that's all that button does. And if we go to our far attenuation, I can say use far attenuation, and we'll see that same fall off parameter. So this is where the light is going to start to fall off, and then this number is where the light ends its fall off. And that's how you would use your near and far attenuation in your standard lighting. And we do have a spotlight selected, so here we have our spotlight parameters. And again, each light is going to have a different set of parameters, slightly different. So now we have a directional light parameters. So we'll go back to spot. So under our spotlight parameters, we have light cone. We can show the light cone. Again, when the light's deselected. Or selected. And then we have overshoot. Now what overshoot does is it will project the light on objects that the cone does not cover. So when I click on overshoot, we have all the objects completely lit from this light source even when it's out of the cone. But what happens with overshoot is you'll see the shadow gets cut. So anything out of the cone does not get the shadow. We have a hotspot beam and then our fall off field. So we can adjust our fall off. Let's turn off the overshoot. And then our hotspot. And for some reason my shadows just aren't updating. But you'll see that they are. There you go. They're generating now. So again, where we have our light at 100% and where we have our fall off. This allows us to change the shape. So I have a circular cone. Here we can have a rectangular cone coming off of our spotlight. And one thing to note on these artificial lights, the computer, is when you're working with them, if you have a light that is parallel to a surface, you won't see the light. So when I take the light and I move it across the ground plane, the second it's parallel to this surface, it stops being generated on that surface. So you do want to make sure that you have your light at a slight angle to whatever you want it to be shown on. So with this, the spotlight is creating the light rays from one point and they radiate out. When we look at our directional light creates rays parallel to each other in one direction. So right now my directional light parameters, it's very similar to the spotlight parameters. I can change my circle to rectangle. I have my spotlight hotspot and my fall off field. And then down here we have our aspect. And here we have rectangle. And the rectangle has the aspect and lets us go square to a more elongated rectangle. Under shadow maps, we have our shadow parameters. So here I can go and change, and let's go and pull this light up a bit so we can see the shadows. I can change the density of the shadows so we can make some additional adjustments. Let's get it really light. I can change the color of the shadows. And then you can add maps into your shadow. So we will add a noise. I'm going to go under General and do a dent. And then let's render this. And here's the map.